Ever been on a project that just drifts? It gets later and later, but there's no single big disaster you can point to. It's a classic problem. So today we're going to crack open a legendary book on software engineering, Frederick Brooks's The Mythical Man Month, to figure out the subtle, sneaky forces that absolutely wreck our schedules. So Brooks kicks things off with this huge, almost mind-boggling question. How does a project get to be a year late? I mean, that sounds like it should have some dramatic, explosive answer. But the truth he uncovers is way more, well, insidious. And the answer? One day at a time. You see, we imagine project failure is this massive tornado, a single catastrophic event that everyone sees coming. Everybody rallies together to fix it. But the reality? Oh, it's much quieter and honestly a lot more dangerous. It's a problem of termites, this slow, daily, almost invisible decay that just eats away at your timeline until the entire structure is ready to collapse. And that right there is the core of the problem. Brooks points out something fascinating. We're actually better at handling tornadoes. A major crisis forces everyone to reorganize, to pull together a massive response. But the termites? A key person is out sick, a machine is down for a day. Those tiny little slips are so much harder to even notice, and they are nearly impossible to make up later. All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll look at how these catastrophes actually hatch, we'll examine those pesky termites of delay, figure out the difference between helpful milestones and, well, millstones. Then we'll learn how to see the critical path, and finally, how to lift the rug to get honest status reports. Okay, first up, let's zoom in on those termites. The real danger here is all about the psychology of the one-day slip. It's a way of thinking that sounds perfectly reasonable, but it's a total trap. It's that little voice in your head, right? The one that sounds so calm and rational. A single day? What's the big deal? We'll catch up. It's so small, it doesn't set off any alarms. We just tell ourselves we'll absorb it later. But this thinking is a poison pill, and it usually comes paired with a really demoralizing excuse. And this is the killer excuse. Brooks calls this a wet blanket that dampens hustle. And he's so right. Why should my team bust our butts to be on time if the team we're depending on is already behind schedule? This logic just destroys the drive to get ahead, to build any kind of buffer. It totally eliminates that reserve capacity that great teams use to handle all the little problems that are bound to happen. So if these little daily slips are the enemy, how do we even keep track of them? Well, with milestones. But here's the warning from Brooks. The wrong kind of milestone isn't just useless. It actually becomes a harmful millstone that just grinds a team's spirit down into dust. Just look at the difference here. It's night and day. A fuzzy milestone like coding is 90% complete. What does that even mean? It's just a feeling. It can hide weeks of delays. But a sharp milestone, that's a concrete 100% yes or no event, passes all test cases. There's just no room to fudge the numbers there. So here's the bottom line. Giving your team sharp, clear milestones is one of a manager's most important jobs. They give everyone clarity. Fuzzy milestones, on the other hand, they just let you sweep bad news under the rug until it's way too late to fix. And trust me, nothing kills a team's morale faster than a schedule that's always slipping. But wait a minute, not every single one-day slip is a total disaster, right? Some matter more than others. So how do you know which ones you really need to worry about? You have to make all the project's dependencies visible. The tool for this is called a PERT chart. And really, it's just a map of your project's dependencies that shows who is waiting for what. And its most important job is to show you the critical path. That's the single chain of tasks where any delay, even a tiny one, directly pushes back your final delivery date. But here's the secret sauce. The real magic isn't the chart itself. It's the act of making the chart. Why? Because building it forces you to have really specific conversations, to identify every single dependency, and to estimate every task way at the beginning. The first one you make is always a mess, and that's good. It forces you to rethink and replan until the logic is actually solid. So let's look at a super simple example. Here, tasks A, B, and C make up the critical path. If task A slips by just one day, the entire project is guaranteed to be one day late, period. This chart is the ultimate answer to that excuse, well, the other piece is late anyway. Now you can see exactly where the hustle is needed most. Okay, so we've got our tools, we've got our sharp milestones, but there's still a huge problem: people.
People often really don't want to share bad news. So what happens? Delays and problems get swept under the rug, hidden from management until they've snowballed into something massive.
This natural conflict, right? A team manager wants autonomy. They're afraid if they report a small slip, their boss is going to jump in and start micromanaging. So they don't report it. Or the bad news gets softened until it doesn't even sound like a threat anymore.
So Brooks gives us 2 solid techniques to deal with this. First, you have to reduce that conflict. In a status meeting, the boss's job is just to listen, not to act. That creates a safe space. Second, you just yank the rug back. You use the PERT chart and those sharp milestones to keep the conversation focused on the facts, because you can't soften facts. And here's another brilliant little trick from one of Brooks's colleagues, a guy named Vysotsky. He said to track 2 different dates. The scheduled date is the official plan. The estimated date is the team lead's honest best guess of when it'll actually be done. That growing gap between the 2, that's your best early warning system that trouble is brewing. So who's supposed to do all this? Who keeps the charts up to date and tracks these 2 dates? Brooks says you need a dedicated plans and controls group. It's a small team that acts as the project's watchdog. Their only job is to provide that early warning system, to make the imperceptible visible, and to stop a project from losing a year 1 day at a time. And that really brings us to the final question we should all be asking about our own work. Are our projects set up to actually spot those tiny daily slips, the termites? Or are we all just holding our breath, hoping a big, obvious tornado never strikes? Because, as we've just learned, it's the termites that are the real catastrophe.